Hi, good afternoon. My name is Umban Alfred, your agricultural science teacher, SS3. We are going to have revision now in preparation for your WAEC examination that will come up after the pandemic. Ramadan Karim, students of Sheikh Abubakar Gumi Academy all over the world, wherever you are, I thank God for the privilege to have access to you this afternoon, leveraging on technology. The topic we are going to revise is called Methods of Crop Improvement. Methods of crop improvement. If you look at what I'm holding here, this is a sample of maize. Maize is a crop that can be cultivated or produced in Nigeria and other parts of the world. If you look at it very well, the seeds are not big enough. If you look at it very well, that means they will not produce enough powder when you process it. Maybe they are susceptible to pests and diseases. So how can we produce a type of maize that will grow very fast, produce big seeds, so that will give us more powder, and maybe not grow too tall and make them resistant to diseases? So that process is called crop improvement. So what is crop improvement? Crop improvement is defined as the process of improving local varieties of crops in order for them to have desired traits that the farmer desires, the farmer needs, or the farmer wants. So there are different methods of achieving that. Number one is called introduction method. Number two is called selection method. Selection method is divided into two: natural method and artificial method of selection. The natural method is what happens in the jungle or in the bush. Strong crops survive, while weak crops that are not able to compete or survive adverse weather conditions die. So naturally, some crops are selected while others go extinct because they cannot survive. The artificial methods of selection include mass selection, pure line selection, progeny selection, pedigree selection. Artificial methods of selection include mass selection, pure line selection, progeny selection, and pedigree selection. Pure line selection is also called individual method. What is mass selection? Mass selection is a process whereby a group of plants are selected based on the performance of the group, all of them. Pure line selection or individual selection is the selection of a crop based on its performance, its individual performance. Progeny selection is selection of a crop based on the performance of its parents. While pedigree selection is selection of crops based on the performance of its children or its offspring. Mass selection, the crops are selected in a group based on the performance of the whole group. Pure line selection or individual selection, the crop is selected based on its performance as an individual crop. Progeny selection, the crops are selected based on the performance of their offspring. Pedigree selection, the crops are selected based on performance of their parents or offspring. Then breeding or hybridization. What is breeding? Breeding is the cross-pollination of two different types of crops in order to produce a hybrid. Crossing or pollination or planting two crops together so that cross-pollination will take place and the offspring will be a hybrid, having characteristics of both parents. There are three types of breeding. There is inbreeding, there is outbreeding, and there is crossbreeding. Inbreeding is breeding of crops that are closely related. Outbreeding is breeding of crops that are not closely related. Crossbreeding is breeding of crops that are not related at all. So, three types of breeding: inbreeding, outbreeding, crossbreeding. Inbreeding, breeding of crops that are closely related. Outbreeding, breeding of crops that are not closely related. Crossbreeding, breeding of crops that are not related at all. So this are the methods that we can use to produce that maize that I showed you that will be of high quality. Now, what are the aims of crop improvement? Aims of crop improvement. Number one, what is the aim of carrying out crop improvement? Number one is to increase the yield of the crop. Number two is to improve the quality of the crop. Number three is to produce crops that can adapt to adverse climatic conditions. Number four is to produce crops that can be resistant to pests and diseases. Number five is to produce crops that meet the needs of growers. Number six is to produce plants that will mature uniformly at the same time. Not that some will mature early while others will mature lately. That will affect the harvest. Then the next aim is to produce crops that have high nutritional value. Like some maize have more starch than others. So the nutritional value is also an aim of crop improvement. Then to meet consumers' need, that is processors of the crop, there are particular qualities they need in the crop they want to process. So they will tell you, and you carry out a research to produce a crop that will meet that need. Now, there are genetic terminologies involved because crop improvement involves genetics. There are crop genetic terminologies that are involved in the process of crop improvement. Number one is called character. Character is the behavior, the quality of a plant that you want to work on. You want your crop to have. It's called a character. Example, the color of the fruit, the size of the fruit, the size of the seed. These are called characters. Then chromosomes. Chromosomes are found in the nucleus of a cell. They are the hereditary structures found in the nucleus of a cell. They are responsible for transferring of characters from one plant to another. Genes are units of inheritance found in the nucleus of crops. Gametes are sex cells. Gametes are sex cells. Like in plants, you have the male sex cell called the pollen grains, while the female sex cell is called the stigma. The zygote is the union of two gametes. It forms zygote. Allele morphs. Allele morphs are a pair of genes that are found on the chromosome in the nucleus of the animal. Genotype is referring to the outward expression, the genes that are expressed on the outward part of the animal. You can see them outwardly. That is called genotype. Example is height. If a plant is tall, you can know physically. Then a breed is a particular group of crops that have the same characteristics. Heterosis is what happens when two different crops are bred together or planted together. That is what is called hybrid vigor. The performance of the offspring is going to be higher than the average of the two parents. That's the meaning of heterosis. Then phenotype. Phenotype is the expression of the genes of the plant, which can be seen. A dominant character is a character that expresses itself in the presence of two genes. It's called a dominant character. It dominates the other gene. That other gene is called recessive gene. Recessive gene is a gene that cannot express itself in the presence of another gene. Then homozygosity is when two genes of the same character appear together on the same point on the chromosome. Similar genes appearing on the chromosome. Heterozygosity is when two genes that don't have the same character, controlling different characters, appear on the chromosome. So homozygous, similar genes. Heterozygous, different genes occurring on the same point of the chromosome. A hybrid is a offspring that is produced from crossbreeding. A hybrid is an offspring that is produced from crossbreeding. That is breeding of different types of crops. They produce what is called a hybrid. Then filial generation is the first generation of offsprings that are produced after breeding. The first generation The second generation is called the second filial generation. The first one is called first filial generation. Then backcross is mating, crossing of plants that is crossing of offspring of plants with their parents. If it is in animals, you say mating of children and their parents. So in crops, it's called backcross. That is breeding of crops with their parent stock. That is called backcross. So these are the aims of crop improvement, and these are some genetic terminologies that are used in crop improvement, and you have seen the methods of crop improvement. So that is where we're going to stop for the revision. So you take this assignment, answer the questions, and submit them to me on my WhatsApp number that I'm going to give you shortly. So number 1, define crop improvements. Number 2, outline three methods of crop improvement. Number 3, discuss 5 aims of crop improvement. So answer the questions and submit them on my WhatsApp line 0806 931 0991. Thank you very much. Ramadan Karim. See you after the pandemic.